All right. Vocalist Linda Purl joins us to talk about her new album, Taking a Chance on Love, and discuss her television roles in such iconic series as Happy Days, Matlock, and The Office, plus some jazz films to binge this weekend and new music in the 5 spot. I'm Brian Zimmerman, and this is the Jazziz Happy Hour. All right, and before we get into today's show, let me just share with you an album that I think many of you will enjoy from ECM Records. It is "Here Be Dragons" from Israeli saxophonist Oded Sur. The music was influenced by Sur's studies with the Bansuri master Hariprasad Chaurasia. Bansuri is a traditional bamboo flute played in India, and the concept of raga music, the traditional music of India, is woven subtly throughout these elegant compositions. But there are also audible traces of atmospheric jazz, of the Pat Metheny type, that Keith Jarrett meditative piano, Israeli folk music, Americana. It's a really nice amalgamation of sounds, and it's available now for streaming and purchase. If you'd like to check it out yourself, go to ecmrecords.com. I'm on the page right now. You can listen to a little bit of tunes, and this is a great record. I highly recommend it. Let me also remind you that right now, we are in the middle of a special subscription offer for Happy Hour viewers. For just 99 cents per month for 3 months, you'll get unlimited digital access to all the stories on our website. Plus, we will enroll you to receive a complimentary print issue. If you act right now, there's a chance you'll be enrolled to receive our summer 2020 print issue, which is all about fusion. So act now, you won't regret it. All right. Big sigh of relief. We have made it. It is Friday, and it's the beginning of a holiday weekend, no less, at least here in the state, is Memorial Day weekend. Today also happens to be Sun Ra's birthday. Yes, Sun Ra, hero of Afro-futurist jazz and, leader of avant-garde, leader of the Sun Ra Orchestra. He claimed to be an alien from Saturn, so we may never know how old he truly is. But if you believe Encyclopedia Britannica, he was born on this day in 1914 in Birmingham, Alabama. He passed away in 1993. But Sun Ra, wherever you are, happy birthday to you. You know my guest today, even though you might not know, my guest today. She is jazz vocalist Linda Purl, and she is about to release her 5th CD. It's called Taking a Chance on Love. And for lovers of the Great American Songbook, for the Broadway tradition, for the Tin Pan Alley tradition, for the cabaret tradition, and believe me, you're looking at one, this is an absolute gem. Linda has a gorgeous voice and a real knack for lyrical expression for television fans. And you're looking at one too. You might know Linda from her roles as Richie Cunningham's girlfriend on Happy Days. She was also Fonzie's fiancée. She was also Matlock's daughter. And she was Pam's mom / Michael Scott's girlfriend on The Office. Probably my favorite show of all time. We are going to be bringing her in for the happy hour in a minute. Just wanted to mention, stick around at the end of the show. We're going to be talking about the 5 spot, which is just 5 things I'm digging right here, right now. And because it's Friday, we're going to stick with this film theme. We're calling it Film Friday. We're going to talk about some jazz films that you can binge. So hope you make it through the end of the show. It's going to be a really good one. With that, let's go ahead and welcome today's very special guest, Linda Purl.
Hi.
Hey, Linda.
You're so good for my ego. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
No. I mean every word. I've been spinning the album a lot lately. It's interesting during lockdown here, you can really increase your dosage of Linda Purl because you can binge watch The Office. And like I said, I've been listening to a lot of this album. Some of your albums are out on Spotify, but this new one is really great. First of all, I got to say the title track, Taking a Chance on Love, is, in my opinion, one of, let's see how I can phrase this. It's like one of the standards that deserves to be covered more. I wish more. I love the melody. It was from that 1940 movie, Taking a Chance on Love. And yeah, it's just absolutely lovely. I'm curious because there is so much overlap between, or at least historically there was, the silver screen and jazz, the Great American Songbook and movies. Which bug did you catch first? An acting bug or the singing bug?
Oh, acting. Yeah, definitely acting. Although growing up, my parents had, the turntable was always on, and it was either Broadway or jazz. And I grew up in Tokyo, and it was steamy hot. We didn't have air conditioning. And somehow those sounds of cool jazz, literally, you just felt like you were in a in a cooler place and not quite as hot as you might actually have been. So those were the soundtracks to my childhood. But acting, and I think honestly that's why the Great American Songbook appeals to me so much, because they feel like a one-act play. You can. Oh, my alarm is going off saying I have to be on with you right now, so I'll just stop.
Well, hey, you made it. The alarm worked.
So yeah, there's stories there. It's like a little arc for a character. And so I feel when I choose songs, I have to connect to it, certainly musically, but lyrically, it has to have enough of a bite, enough of a story for me to want to jump in with it.
Awesome. Do you remember from early on some of those songs that really just kind of like captivated you?
Shall We Dance? Almost everything from The King and I, from what was the Red Cat, the one that Lucille Ball had done, which is because she 100 years later, and 100 years ago she became my mother-in-law. Anyway, it's just a weird fact. And I can smell those CDs. When my folks moved to Japan, everything sat out in a field during the monsoon. And so many things were ruined, but and some of the LPs, remained, but they always smelled a kind of a milk.
Wow.
So that too was a part of my,
Oh, it's so amazing how smell can trigger a memory like that. I've heard that is the strongest memory trigger. Yeah, that's interesting. You grew up in Tokyo. Why did your parents move there?
My dad was in business there. He headed up a joint venture for an American industrial firm, and my parents had been there during the occupation days, so they had the language and loved Japan, and it was an exciting time.
You trained at the Toho. I'm going to totally mispronounce this. Toho Gaino Academy. Gaino. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That was at an acting academy in Tokyo.
It was. My parents were theatricals at heart, and so bless them, they just let me sort of follow that interest. And at the time there was as much curiosity from our side for what is Japan and who are the Japanese and how can we immerse ourselves in the culture, as there was for the Japanese to learn more about Americans. And so or the West, I should say, not just Americans. And so all kinds of thresholds could be crossed. And there was also, it's an art-centric culture. Yes. So, any effort towards the arts was welcomed. So the fact that I had an interest in going to the school there was no resistance to it. It was like, great, just another way to carry on the conversation.
Have you been back to perform there? Because I know the audiences in Tokyo just love jazz.
They do. In fact, growing up, there were some amazing singers there. Dolly Baker lived there for a long time. Anita O'Day lived there for a period of time. Helen Merrill lived there for a long time. She was married to a guy with UPI, I guess. Anyway, so we would hear those people sing. It was a small foreign community. They would come to the house. It's pretty wild. And that did not at all answer your question, which was, tell me what your question was. It was
have you performed back there since?
Yeah. I went back a couple of years ago for a month on a tour and sort of hippity hopped around Tokyo and Osaka area. And oh my gosh, it was such a nostalgic trip. It was time travel. I was sort of, imagining my childhood, but also exploring the modern day Japan, and it was fascinating. The musicians were terrific. I did not take Ted Firth with me. I would have if I could have afforded it, but we couldn't. And and I didn't know at what level the language would be there. But
I was going to ask, how's your Japanese?
Cobwebs just being blown out of my brain as I felt the language coming back from something ancient inside of me. The musicians did not speak English, so I had to communicate with them in Japanese, and my vocabulary is very plebeian. So I was making up words left and right, and you could feel where the new words, there were certain words I just had to learn so that we could communicate. Yeah. I was learning them new at that time. And you physically, they felt like they were at a very different place in your being from what I was remembering from childhood. Anyway,
cool.
I would go back there in a heartbeat. The audiences are sophisticated. They knew this song.
Appreciate jazz, yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's walk it back on the timeline a little bit. After you moved back from Japan, you're here in the States. What would you consider your first big break, into professional acting then? You've studied at Toho Gano. Where did the first big break come here in the States?
Studied at Toho Gano. I studied in London for a while.
Okay,
well,
right.
I did a soap opera called Secret Storm. And so that was a big deal for me. I was 16, I guess, and living in New York. But then I moved to LA when I was 18, and I was cast in a movie of the week that Aaron Spelling did. It was called Little Ladies of the Night, about teenage prostitution. And it became a big deal. It was the highest rated movie of the week for years. Farrah Fawcett blew us out of the water at some point with something fabulous that she did. And now you can't get those kinds of numbers because this was back in the dark ages, and it was ABC, NBC, CBS. That was it. So everybody was getting bigger numbers. And that one, go figure, teenage prostitution.
Put you on the map. Okay, then which came first? It would have been Matlock and then Happy Days? Or
both.
At the same time?
Happy Days, Matlock, then Happy Days again. So Happy Days, when I first was on Happy Days, I was playing Ron Howard's girlfriend. But then as the series caught on, somehow the Fonzie character kind of took off. So they didn't need to have supporting characters for Ron. So that was out of a job. Thanks a lot. And then Ron, left the show. Poor thing. I wonder whatever happened to Ronnie Howard.
Oh, I know.
So
out of work, out of a job.
I know. No good, no talent. No.
That's right.
Then I did Matlock, and then there was maybe it was Happy Days, then Matlock. I don't know. See, this is what happened.
Here's what I'm confused about. Were you the same character? Did Richie become?
It was so sick. It was, there was a casting notice that came out. That was it. It was Happy Days, then Matlock. Okay, so the second round on Happy Days, casting notice came out, and they said, we're looking for a fiancée for Fonzie, and we want a Linda Purl type. So my agent called, and they said, well, would you consider seeing Linda for the role? And they said, oh, all right. So I went in and auditioned with like 500 other women, and I got the role. And it was so much fun. So I've been on the show at the beginning when they were wondering, gee, are we going to get picked up for another season? And then when I came back, they had their huge arc of success. And it was so much fun to be back with those wonderful people, and lifelong friendships have been maintained out of it. In fact, Donnie's a wonderful, Donnie Most, who played Ralph Mouth. And Donnie's a fantastic singer, and he tours, back when we could. And so we've been doing some concerts together, or we'll guest in each other's concerts if we're in the same city. And it's so much fun. That's one of those friendships that has maintained over the decades.
Oh, that's an awesome. I'm curious because after Happy Days came Matlock, and Matlock was really after Matlock was when you decided, I want to pursue this this vocalist thing too.
Oh,
is that there you are on Matlock? Am I right about that? Chronologically, it was after Matlock. You said, okay, I want to take the jazz vocal thing seriously and pursue that professionally as well.
Something like that. You probably know my timeline better than I. I think what was happening.
I did a little research.
Thank you. I had done musicals as a kid, and I'd done recording for a little bit in Japan, and I was just missing music. It's not like you could sing on Happy Days or Matlock. So a friend of mine, Jimmy Dunn, maybe you know James Dunn, wonderful composer, and he's written hit songs. Anyway, Jimmy was doing a cabaret night at a club over in Hollywood, and on Happy Days USO tours, we would sing every once in a while. So he said, come on, do a couple duets, some songs that we had done together. And I did. It was no pressure on me. It was Jimmy's night. And the proprietor of the club, the Rose Tattoo, Tommy Rolla, bless his heart, came to me and he said, okay, when are you going to do a cabaret act? Which was terrifying to me. So terrifying that I knew I had to do it. It was like he, threw the glove down. So
I dare you. Yeah.
Introduced me to Ron Abel, who then was my musical director for 22 years, I think, and David Galligan, who's a wonderful director. And they held my trembling hand and built a nightclub act. And so I was singing again. And the beauty of cabaret was that you could get together with your musician pals, build a show, call a club and say, what night do you have free? And go in and sing. So it was for fun. It was for the discipline of it. It was the process of it. And then for years during the AIDS epidemic, all of us were doing benefits. So now I was on stage and singing, and very occasionally I would get to do a musical, but it was just a way of being able to keep music in my life, or get it back into my life.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm wondering, as you're on these TV shows, and again, you're wanting to pursue the jazz vocal thing too. Mm-hmm. You were on Happy Days, you were on Matlock, you were on The Office. Were there colleagues, fellow actors who, were also shared this musical interest, or were also super encouraging of it? On The Office, I think of Ed Helms. I imagine must have
oh my God,
been really into it.
Musicians on The Office. Yeah, unbelievable. Lunch hour was always a blast because bring in their guitars and their fiddles and they would play. And I think so many performers have this other life that they've had. I mean, Hal Linden, for God's sakes, and Tom Bosley, they had done musicals. Donnie Most had been singing as a younger person, and I never really left it. He's always kept it going, and now he's doing more of that than he had time to in the past. So yeah, it's not that unusual. Oh, when I did Homeland, I got to work with Mandy Patinkin a lot. And,
oh, sure.
I mean, I think I had always thought of him more as a musical theater performer. Of course, he's such a superb actor. You thought, oh, that's why we were all so moved serially by his performances on Broadway, because of his deep acting chops. But that voice,
it's wonderful. I love Mandy too. And it leads me to my next question, which is, in your acting work, are there techniques, approaches, philosophies that you apply from the singing world to acting, and vice versa as you go into the recording studio or on stage to sing? Are there techniques, or there mindsets that you pull from acting? How much crossover is there?
Oh, I love that question. That's a very nuanced question. Yes. And about a week from now, I'll have a really good answer for it.
I was going to say, nuanced question is a way of saying too confusing of a question.
No. Well, I think, you go to, the lyric, and the dialogue. So that process is very similar, certainly in terms, memorizing, but also, where does it anchor in your spirit? Why do you want to tell that story? What part of you connects to that lyric? The difference is that you're buck naked when you sing, because it's you and the audience. There's no character to hide behind there. When you stop singing, it's still your turn to keep singing. So it's, unless you're doing a duet. I'll just interject here. Another friend that I love performing with is Tom Wopat, from Dukes of Hazzard.
Okay.
You probably had him on the show. If not, get him on the show. He's got wonderful, wonderful albums, and oh my God, his voice, and he's a fine, fine musician. Anyway, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, I will move on to my next question. That's hopefully this one won't be as nuanced. I love your interpretation of the Great American Songbook, and what I like so much about it is you include pages outside of just the quote unquote jazz chapters of the Great American Songbook, borrowing from the Broadway tradition, musical theater, cabaret, so on and so forth. I will put this out there. I am a Stephen Sondheim nut. I'm in the middle of one of those, 20 albums that change your life things on Facebook where you got to post an album every day.
Oh, yeah.
The original cast recording of Company is undoubtedly going to be on there. He's the kind of composer I would love to see more jazz musicians take on. Are there composers you can think of from your, history in theater that you would like to that translate well into jazz, or you would think would translate well into jazz, and that you'd like to see more artists cover?
Any of them.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Sondheim is that it's terrifying, and you want to honor what he wrote so deeply, profoundly, that you sort of feel almost sacrilegious taking him apart. However, I'm so blessed, fortunate, all my good karma got landed on this one event when I was introduced to Ted Firth, who's been my music director now for 11 years, been Tom Wopat's music director for like 18 years. But so that's the thing, I think, is to have one of those rarely gifted music directors take a song and break it out of its mold and still be authentic to the tune, not just make it whatever to break the mold just for the sake of breaking the mold. It has to make, at least for me, to really enjoy it. It wants to be authentically connected to the texture of the song. So for Ted, I would say he can reinvent a song fearlessly.
As you do on this album quite a bit, with the nice medleys you got there, pairing of the tunes. What is the one that leaves up Pure Imagination, and Neverland. Yeah, which is a great pairing.
Oh, good. That was actually so Ruth Price paired those two songs years ago, and Ruth Price, right?
Yeah.
Jazz singer, great. So I stole her idea, and then John Prue did that particular arrangement. Yeah, it's the only arrangement on the album that Ted did not do. And John, my gosh, talk about an embarrassment of riches. Another just wonderful musician.
Absolutely, yeah. Ted Firth, musical director, he's on the album as well. Great band, absolutely great band.
Yeah. How about that, Dave?
Well, shout out to them as well.
Oh, geez, Ray Marchica and Nelson. I live in New York and Colorado, and so Nelson Rangel lives out here in Colorado. And maybe 8 years or so, I started doing some Christmas concerts out here, and met Nelson. Wow.
All amazing players, and just playing with a vocalist as an instrumentalist is an art into itself, and it's a very fine art. And they do a great job, and you all complement each other beautifully.
Oh, good. Well, Ted, thank you for that. Ted and Ray and Dave all live in New York, so they play a lot together. And so that was a gift to me because they feel each other, they know each other, they've had so many hours, probably not 10,000 hours, but maybe close. So all of that patina, I get to take advantage of.
Awesome. We should mention the new album is coming out when? Remind me, next week?
May 28, 29. But right. What day is it? Frump Day?
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
exactly. So it'll be here before you know it.
That's right.
Your albums are streaming everywhere else. And I'm curious, because you tour so much, is there a specific venue? Is there a specific city you're looking forward to revisiting once we come out of this?
Oh boy. No, anywhere. At this point, I'm so hungry to get back into live performance. I'm missing the whole experience. And being on the road is so much fun because you meet musicians all over the country, sometimes over the world when I get to go internationally. And it's so much fun to hear what other people bring to the charts. We're all dying to get back to live events.
So true. Well, in the meantime, We will listen to your music. We will await the CD. I'll be binge watching The Office, which is making an incredible comeback. I remember watching it when I was in New York with my wife. We were broke as a joke, and we'd wait every Thursday for the new episode. That's when you had to wait a week for the new episode to come out. We'd cook ourselves dinner, which was really just like tortilla chips and hummus, because we couldn't afford anything else, and wait for The Office to come on. We watched it back then. I've watched the whole series like 3 or 4 times now. Why do you think it has this huge comeback? It's found a new audience. Any guess as to why it's so enduring?
Oh gosh, well, the writing was so good. All the actors were so good. I came onto the show however many years into. We've already established, you and I, that I have no idea what day or year it is. So, but I came in well into the show, and at that point they had such a good success. They all could have been coming into work kind of taking it for granted. It was not that way. They came into work like it was the first day of school. And I think they were all inclined that way. But, it starts at the top. And Steve is such a prince of a man that he didn't take a second of it for granted. The other thing that he did that I thought was one of the many things that he did was so cool was he had, his film career was taking off. And he could just have said at the end of a particular season, not coming back. But he didn't do that. He said to everybody, I have 1 more year and then I'll leave. So that gave the show time to transition and then keep going without him, as opposed to it just being over. So it was a very gracious, thoughtful thing to do, impactful to everybody affiliated with the show.
Very cool. Yeah, and that camaraderie showed, as it does on your album, Linda. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate this. And it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Again, the album, Taking a Chance on Love, the title track of which is personally one of my favorite jazz standards, out May 29th. And it's a great listen. In the meantime, go check out Linda's stuff on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever. If you're a fan, like I said, of the Great American Songbook, of the Broadway tradition, of the cabaret tradition, this is right in your wheelhouse, and you will love it. I promise. Linda, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure.
For sharing your audience. I really appreciate it. Stay safe.
You are very welcome. You too.
Take
Bye.
care.
All right. Thanks again to Linda Purl for joining us on the Happy Hour. What a treat. As a fan of her music and as a fan of The Office, man, that was the highlight of my week. We are going to move on to, I want to tell you first about a sponsor break. We are going to thank Blue Sound. Blue Sound is an award-winning wireless high-res sound system that lets you play music in any and every room throughout your home. You just choose music from your favorite streaming service or from a music library connected to your home network. Control where, what volume, and when the music plays via a free Blue OS app for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer. And that's it. Getting the kind of audiophile, high-grade sound system that any jazz fan deserves has never been easier. You can visit bluesound.com for more info, or visit our website, jazziz.com, where we have put together a Blue Sound buyer's guide. All right, we will move along right now to the 5 spot, which is just 5 things that I happen to be digging at the moment. Nothing more, nothing less. 5 things that I happen to be feeling. All right, let's see. We're going to start first with something from our website. Bear with us through our technical difficulties. It has been a good couple of months for jazz and comic books. And I would know, I am both a jazz nerd and a comic book nerd. I've got the RoboCop figure to prove it. Actually, the actor who played RoboCop, Peter Wellers, happens to be a jazz trumpet player. He received his doctorate in jazz, I believe. Anyhow, Z2 Comics has put together, and working with the Charlie Parker estate, will release a graphic novel of Charlie Parker, documenting his years in Los Angeles in honor of Charlie Parker's 100th anniversary, which is this year. Chasing the Bird, named after Parker's 1947 standard, chronicles Charlie Parker's story time in Los Angeles in the mid-1940s. It was written and drawn by Dave Chisholm and colored by DreamWorks animation director Peter Markowski. You can order it now, and there's a deluxe version too that comes with a limited edition 45 record, 2 of them. It's pretty sweet. And yeah, this also just came into my mailbox the other day. It's a new-ish book. It's called Showtime at the Apollo, The Epic Tale of Harlem's Legendary Theater. It's by Ted Fox, illustrated by James Otis Smith. And this thing is pretty sweet, too. It is a novel-length graphic novel documenting the history of the Apollo. From the swing era through bebop, all the way through soul and R&B and funk. It's a very cool little book. It is out now, too, and you can order it on Amazon or wherever you get your books. That was number 1 in the 5 spot. Number 2, it is Miles Davis's birthday. Coming up, at least May 26th is Miles Davis's birthday. And the Miles Davis Estate, in conjunction with the Jazz Foundation of America, will present a Miles Davis birthday celebration, a 3-hour musical special highlighting the music of the trumpet legend tonight, May 22nd, on Sirius XM's Real Jazz Station at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The show, curated by Sirius XM's Mark Ruffin and guest DJs Aaron Davis, Vince Wilburn Jr. of the Miles Davis Estate, and Steve Jordan of the Jazz Foundation of America, will benefit and raise awareness for COVID-19 Musicians Emergency Fund, which is a part of the Jazz Foundation of America. Aaron Davis and Vince Wilburn Jr., both family members of Miles Davis, will also host a Miles Davis quarantine birthday party with an Instagram takeover on the Miles Davis Instagram account at Miles Davis on May 26th on the Prince of Darkness's birthday himself. So you're going to want to check that out. That is at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I guess that's 7 p.m. Eastern time. All right, number 3 in the 5 spot, things to check out. A new box set from avant-garde legend William Parker. He's a bassist. He released on May 15th, Trencadis, I think is how you pronounce it. It was a 10-track advanced selection from this huge 10-album box set entitled The Music of William Parker, Migration of Silence into and Out of the Tone World, Volumes 1 through 10, which is due out August 14th. This box set will present 10 all-new interrelated albums created by Park West Studios in Brooklyn throughout the last 16 months. It will come in a deluxe clamshell box set with an extensive booklet on William Parker's own Centering Records imprint. It is distributed by Alm Fidelity. Now, listen, a lot of people think of William Parker in the avant-garde free jazz mode, and rightly so. But listen, I saw William Parker at the Joy of Jazz Festival in South Africa with the vocalist Lena Conquest, and it was like the funkiest, most happening set of the whole show. So he can really groove too. For those with adventurous ears, you are definitely going to want to check this out. All righty. Number 3 on the 5 spot, things I'm digging at the moment. The Jazz Coalition Fund. Now, if you remember, we had the Jazz Coalition Fund, organizers of the Jazz Coalition Fund, on the show a few weeks back. They created a fund to help keep musicians active and compensated during these very difficult times. Money was raised. A jury was put together. The jury deliberated, and 51 grants of more than $1,000 were awarded to musicians as a commission to create new work. This is an amazing way, I don't have to tell you, to help musicians through what is a very, very dry spell. And look, I don't know if you can see on screen, but just some amazing names here, very deserving, who received this commission, from Jasmine Horn to Aaron Parks, Ben Williams, Brandon Ross, Vincent Herring. So we can expect a lot of great works from these artists. And the idea is they'll create commissions, new works of art, based on this experience that we're all going through with COVID-19. Lastly, the 5th of the 5 spot, I like to reserve for artists who submit through our Inside Track program, shine some light on them. This one comes from the duo Endless Field. I want to talk about their new album, Alive in the Wilderness. Endless Field, I've written about them in the past, are a collaborative instrumental guitar and bass duo consisting of Jesse Lewis on guitar and Ike Sturm on bass. They have historically drawn inspiration from nature, seeking to bring music into outdoor spaces and vice versa, the sound of outdoor spaces into their music. The new album was recorded live in the Utah wilderness using a solar battery-powered mobile recording studio. Very cool. And National Geographic videographers documented their epic adventure. Let's see if we can pull up a little bit of this and hopefully play it without the sound. But yeah, you can see here they're out in the field, they're recording. All of their recording equipment is solar powered. And on top of that, all of the proceeds from the album will go to the Natural Resources Defense Council. So yeah, how about that? This album, as I mentioned, is up on our Inside Track page. You can browse it. You can click on over to the Bandcamp link and listen to it there as well. All righty, that does it for the 5 spot. Hope you enjoyed it. We are going to kind of stay with a film theme. You know, we had the great Linda Purl on, and she was a star of the silver screen. We're going to stay with the film theme, and we're calling this thing Film Fridays, and we'll see if it sticks. But every Friday, we're going to be talking about some jazz films that you can maybe binge over the weekend. Here are 3 of my favorites. So let me see if we can pull them up here. All right, we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is Round Midnight. So this is a French-American collaboration from 1986 that was directed by Bertrand Tavernier. This is, in my estimation, the movie that just gets everything right about jazz. Other movies try, you know, they really do try, but you can always tell maybe they could have benefited from like a jazz consultant or something like that. This one is the real deal. And that is partly because it stars Dexter Gordon. Like, as an actor, he's the star. And he's great. He was nominated for an Academy Award for this movie. Herbie Hancock also makes a cameo, as does Wayne Shorter. And the soundtrack, which they all played on, won a Grammy. The movie's kind of based on the jazz expatriates, American expatriates like Lester Young and Bud Powell, and to a certain extent, Dexter Gordon himself, who lived in Europe, during really fruitful parts of their career. It's a great movie all around. And if you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend it. It may be available for streaming, I think, on some of the streaming service, but especially for, I think, people overseas in the UK and France, it's on Amazon. But if you can find it, watch it. It's awesome. All right. Number 2 is technically not a jazz film, but its score has some serious jazz bona fides. It is 1959's Anatomy of a Murder. It's directed by Otto Preminger. This is a courtroom drama starring Jimmy Stewart. There's a murder, there's cover-ups, there's an insanity plea. It's a great trial movie, one of the best. And I've heard from lawyers that it's very, very accurate. On its own, it would be a fantastic movie, but its score was written by Duke Ellington, who also appears in the film. And the score on its own would have been a great album. This is just really a perfect marriage of movie, music, and cinema. So this one, I believe, is streaming in certain places too. If you can find this one, definitely watch Anatomy of a Murder. My third on the list, again, if you can find it, hunt it down, watch it. This was a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Spike Lee joint, Mo Better Blues. I love this movie. It's from 1990, featuring Denzel Washington as a trumpet player, Bleak Gilliam. The character kind of gets into trouble and gets his way out. And it's just a great movie. It's got a great New York vibe. It's shot beautifully. Denzel is great in it. Spike is great in it. And it features the music of the Branford Marsalis Quartet, along with trumpeter Terrence Blanchard, who is kind of the trumpet double for Denzel Washington. He was playing all the trumpet scenes. This one also features some real jazz artists as well, like Abby Lincoln and the vocalist. Jeff Tain Watts, the drummer, is in there too, and as is Ruben Blades. So this is a really good movie. This one is available for streaming as well, or rental. If you have the time, if you are so inclined, go check it out. Those are my 3 movie recommendations for Film Friday. If you like that Film Friday segment, let us know in the comments. Could be something we decide to keep. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me today. Before I go, I want to let you know again about the subscription offer we have going on right now for happy hour viewers. For just 99 cents per month for 3 months, you can unlock unlimited digital access to our website. So every article, the subscribers only ones, every podcast, every video, every Q&A, every review, it's all there for you. Plus, we will enroll you to receive our upcoming print issue. And if you act right now, I mean right now, you'll be enrolled to receive our summer 2020 issue, which is all about fusion. The cover story is on Chick Corea. We've got a wide-ranging interview with him. We also talk to some young fusion players about what it's like to keep the fusion flame alive. We go into some essential fusion recordings. It's a great issue. I'm really proud of it. Again, if you sign up right now, you'll be able to receive it. Also, independent artists and friends of independent artists, you saw on the show today, we've got this Inside Track program. People always ask me, Brian, I just released an album. What's the best way to get it to your attention? How can I get it in front of your ears? I tell them the Inside Track program. You just go to jazziz.com, click submit your music in the top navigation bar. Easier to do than it is to say. And then just submit everything about your album. Your band name, the album name, track listing, personnel. You can send us a link to Bandcamp or SoundCloud. It all comes directly to my inbox. It comes directly to online editor Matt McCucci's inbox. It comes to all of our inboxes, and I promise you, we listen to all this music. How do I know? Well, we put up on the site for everyone else to listen to as well. You can browse all the Inside Tracks through the Inside Track program as well. You want to listen to, a fusion band from Brazil, or, a trad jazz outfit from Israel. It's all there. I highly suggest you check it out. But more importantly, for independent artists, you want to get your music in front of my ears, that's the way to do it. Well, what an episode, folks, and what a week. We started with Sun Ra. We got Linda Purl, jazz movies, the Jazz Coalition, comic books. Where else do you get this kind of variety but on the Jazziz Happy Hour? I certainly enjoy being your host, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of you joining me today and throughout all the weeks that you've been tuning in. Next week, let's see, in terms of programming, we're going to kick things off with Ryan Porter, who's a trombonist in Kamasi Washington's band. Tuesday, we've got Mike Jones on the show. So some of you might be familiar with Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller, the Magic Duo. Well, before every show in Las Vegas, Penn Jillette actually gets out there and plays jazz bass with pianist Mike Jones. They released an album together, and we're going to be talking to Mike about it. Wednesday is John Kreisberg. He's an amazing guitarist based in New York. Used to be from our neck of the woods in Miami. He's going to be playing for us too. Thursday, we've got the pianist Lawrence Hobgood. And Friday, we're going to wrap things up with Gino Vanelli. So another great week of happy hours in store for you. I'm Brian Zimmerman. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.